Good God， 我们好机车频道又猜对的。
The prophecy has come true.
But this time, it is a prophecy that I at least wanted to come true. Diddy is not guilty. Well, mostly anyway. And America is completely losing it. How in the world could this terrible POS escape life in prison? Well, 卖换了啦，因为他可能不会被关，但是他一定会破产。All because of what's coming next. And maybe that'll be punishment enough.
Show me the money.
So, 准备在爆米花, and today I'm pushing the 巧克力麦芽口味 because this is the exact flavor you're gonna need to drown all your sorrows of the fact that this goober actually got away with it. But make sure you get yourself a bag and let's figure out exactly how this fool managed to escape a life sentence. 事情真的很大条咯。Okay, so about a month ago, just as the trial began, I made a video and it went something like this. And before a single witness took the stand, even before a single jury member was selected, very crazy things started to happen. And strange thing is, not only is Diddy pleading not guilty, but he also rejected a plea deal, making me think that in spite all the evidence and odds against him, Diddy just might go free. No. Wait. Now, at the time, a lot of people in America, and actually quite a few of our viewers, were 100% certain that this fool was gonna get life in prison. And real talk, before we put that video out, we were pretty sure he was too.
Bit of a commotion outside the courthouse. Sean Combs' mother just returned here. She walked in just a second ago, said she is feeling good because her son was acquitted of the most serious charges that he faced: sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, both of which could have sent him to prison for life. He was convicted, though, of transportation to engage in prostitution, and that charge could put him in prison for up to 20 years, although it's not expected he would get that much time.
But then, just 24 hours ago, the verdict came out. And out of them 5 charges, he was found guilty of 2 of the smallest ones: transportation with the intent to engage in prostitution. Each count could get a maximum of 10 years, which means maybe the diddler might get 20 years in jail.
There's a chance.
But real talk, I think that's highly unlikely. Chances are this fool will pay a fine and he'll be out by the end of the year.
The question, did he do it? I don't think anybody could have predicted this. Somehow the answer seems to be no.
Crossing on the wires, Sean Diddy Combs is found not guilty on the racketeering conspiracy charge in this federal case.
No fucking way.
Here's another alert. Combs found not guilty in the sex trafficking of his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Here's another one. Combs found guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs found...
Which is like, that's nothing. Oh, driving a hoe around? I've done that.
And everyone's reaction was initially the same. How in the hell could this happen? Well, it all comes down to one woman and the team behind her, Diddy's lawyers.
Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury.
So everyone, myself included, thought that the defense couldn't possibly save Diddy. But then there was one woman who would change everything.
I want to thank them. I also have been saying this since the beginning of this case. Sean Combs has not sexually assaulted anybody. I've been saying this for months. We've said it with each lawsuit that came out, and today that was proven true. The media got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day for nearly 2 years. I ask that for every time you guys see a civil lawsuit, criminal complaints or criminal indictments, you actually take a look and analyze these and see whether or not these are actually going to stand up in a court of law, because today they did not. He has not assaulted anybody, certainly hasn't trafficked anybody, and the jury found that today. Thank you.
Now, if you heard her opening statement in court, I think you'd be quite impressed because her logic was crystal clear and she was incredibly persuasive.
Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Had he been charged with domestic violence, had he been charged with assault, we would not be here right now. We would not be sitting through an 8-week trial. However, he has been charged with different crimes: sex trafficking, prostitution, racketeering. These are federal crimes with their different statutes. They charge different elements, and he is simply not guilty of those crimes. One of the central themes of my statements to you will be personal accountability and personal responsibility. As the trial goes on, we will see that with each witness, we are going to take that on ourselves. We will not shy away from the things Mr. Combs did, but we will not deny his personal responsibility or own the things that he did not do. We are telling you right now that he is physical, that he is a drug user, and I'm telling you he had a bit of a different life. For example, you may have not heard any evidence in this case, but the prosecutors already told you about lubricant, and you may know of his love of baby oil. Is that a federal crime? No. You will hear that he got IVs after ingesting drugs. Is that a federal crime? No.
Baby oil is not a crime. Here, she's created yet another great slogan. And I bet you in a month or two, shit, the way Kanye's be leaning, maybe in a week or two, there will be a song released called Baby Oil is Not a Crime.
Baby oil ain't no crime. But Diddy's butt cheeks look so fine. Oh, baby oil ain't no crime. But damn, Diddy's butt cheeks look so fine. Slide it in.
Bad boy. I like this right.
Sad but true, baby oil is not a crime. This lawyer, along with her team, successfully got Diddy acquitted of the most serious charges. And I think their strategy was very clear, creating a memorable slogan: domestic violence isn't trafficking, and baby oil is not a crime.
And historically, RICO charges were reserved for members of the mafia, and you would take down mafia members or the kingpin and then go for the lower level people. But if you compare the two, they're alleging his company was a criminal enterprise and that he enlisted the help of various people, from low-level employees like personal assistants to security guards, to do his dirty work, so to speak, or help him in the commission of crimes.
The sex trafficking holds the only charge that has a minimum maximum, 15 years minimum to life maximum, and he could pretty much be in federal prison the rest of his life.
Now, out of the 5 charges, the heaviest one was the RICO charge. And Diddy's defense was brilliant. They argued that the prosecution couldn't provide evidence of salary transfers or text messages discussing criminal activity. And the diddler only had people booking flights and hotel rooms, and those aren't exactly crimes.
Think I'm gonna be the scapegoat for the whole damn machine? Shit.
I hate to admit, but it's very logical. If you don't know your boss is a fraudster and all you're doing is booking hotels and buying them breakfast, and then your boss goes off and commits fraud in the room that you booked after eating the breakfast that you bought, does that make you a part of a criminal organization?
I think it was always going to be really difficult to prove sex trafficking, particularly when the key witnesses were women he was in a relationship with for multiple years. I get why they charged him with that, but you can never really predict how a jury is going to react. And with racketeering, that's just always difficult to prove because there are so many moving parts.
Now, for the trafficking charge, it requires solid proof that Diddy used force or coercion to make people engage in prostitution. But the diddler paid those people, and he flew them across state lines to participate in his free calls. And in the end, he didn't profit a single dime. All the money he spent was for a few baby oil-induced orgasms. And as a result, the diddler escaped a life sentence of charges.
Major crimes? Shit.
Now, the defense team used some rock-solid, undeniable logic to convince the jury that these 3 charges were bullshit. And initially, for half a day, the jury was split right down the middle. Half thought he was guilty, and half thought he wasn't. Now, emotionally, I think the diddler and his employees knew exactly what was going on. They knew Cassie was being abused by Diddy. They knew the hotel rooms were for free calls. And even if free calls aren't illegal, buying drugs to knock people out is. And those employees knew people were passing out of them parties and said absolutely nothing. So to me, from my point of view, it is absolutely a criminal organization.
Tight, yeah!
Okay, now let's look at this very rationally. If you're gonna sentence someone to life in prison, you're gonna need a ton of strong evidence showing that this guy and his employees operated as a group of criminals with the sole intent of committing crimes and making money from it. The employees were just following the boss's orders, booking rooms, buying baby oil and some drugs on the side. But other than keeping their job, they didn't really benefit from it. And that is a far cry from the definition of a criminal organization, because after all, baby oil isn't a crime.
Baby, oil ain't no crime. But Diddy's butt cheeks look so fine. Oh, baby, oil ain't no crime. But damn, Diddy's butt cheeks look so fine. Slide it in.
Bad boy. I like this right here.
But no matter how great the lawyer and the defense team was, it completely pales in comparison to the performance of the key figure, their star witness, the poor girl, Cassie Ventura. She's the one who brought him to court, kicked off the whole FBI investigation, and she's also the reason why he was found not guilty. Wanna know why? Well, get some more of that 爆米花, because 事情真的很大条咯. I ain't pouring that shit in my head this time. I can't even pour it out. There we go. 一颗.
He will be responsible. He will be accountable for the things that he did. But we will fight for his freedom throughout the next 8 weeks for what he did not do. And he cannot be the only person in this case who accepts personal responsibility and accountability for his actions. The alleged victims who will testify in this case are capable, strong adult women. They are all getting something each of them wanted from him and from being in a romantic relationship with him. And those adult, capable, strong women will have to take on the same level of personal responsibility for their lives that he is going to take on for his.
Actions have good and bad consequences, but in the end, everyone must take responsibility for their choices. The defense was brilliant, reminding everyone of this basic concept that we learned when we were kids, completely framing the case as mutual exploitation between two people. And the result? Turns out this strategy was really highly effective.
From the defense's perspective, these women knew what they signed up for. They maybe were upset when things ended or whatever, but Diddy didn't force them to do anything. They were willing participants.
They showed many text message exchanges throughout the years of Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs and her saying that she loved having the freak-offs, that she wanted to have another one. And escorts testified to this as well, that she reached out to these escorts. She set up the experiences. And I think what got very heady for the jury to decide is, was she coerced?
Now, all of us, myself included, was completely convinced that Cassie was forced into the freak-offs. And off rip, she won everyone's sympathy. Until...
message around August 5th of 2009, Diddy asked, when do you want to freak off? Cassie said, I'm ready to freak off, LOL. Diddy responded, you tell me the date, you choose. And then I'm paraphrasing right here. She had responded, I feel like a Friday would be best. Diddy responded, also paraphrasing here, Friday it is. Maybe we can get Jules here. Jules was an escort that they had used very often in their freak offs, according to her testimony. He was brought up a number of times, and notably, he was the escort that was inside that hotel room during the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident. There were other messages that went into, Diddy had a subject line that said, what are you thinking about? And then Cassie responded in a very kind of sexually explicit way that I'm not going to repeat on air. You could definitely feel like I was kind of peeking into what their history was like, especially in those intimate moments and how the two would correspond about wanting to be with each other in an intimate way. And so a lot of those messages were displayed in front of the jury. The jury saw them. Us in the gallery, we saw these messages as well too.
Now, this text message evidence was devastating to Cassie's case, who was the star witness for the prosecution. During her testimony, she won everyone's sympathy, including some of the jurors. But when her text messages were revealed showing that she not only enjoyed the freak-offs, but actually arranged them, it went back to what the defense said in the opening statement. Everyone must take responsibility for their choices. And it looked like Cassie regretted her decisions and hid key facts to gain sympathy.
Well, I'll tell you, it seemed to me they were really trying to home in on the idea that she was a willing participant in the freak-offs, and that the jury, are you really going to believe that she was essentially held captive against her will, didn't want to do any of this for years because she was under threat or coercion of Sean Combs, and highlighting messages like, I'm always ready to freak off, LOL, or baby, I want to FO so bad, you know, that's going to help their narrative, and, you know, saying she was the one who tried to set these up, or I believe there was a testimony she heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs.
Now, clearly, Diddy's defense team used this strategy very successfully, and although there were some sketchy ones, the majority of these texts were simply romantic messages between lovers, and the defense's strategy completely destroyed Cassie's credibility. Shit, one might argue that these texts actually saved Diddy's ass.
There was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was, the defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bana. Bana is also a pretty important name into this story. I had covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bana was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about in her direct testimony to yesterday. The defense was trying to say, well, you and Bana, you guys did a lot of drugs together. And Cassie at this time was saying, you know, she was doing opiates. Meanwhile, Bana, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opiates. Meanwhile, Bana did, according to Cassie. Cassie had said that Diddy was pretty explosive when he found out that Cassie was taking his drugs, and Diddy had actually contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point. The defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including ketamine, MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures on red carpets, and he had squeezed her leg so hard, according to Cassie, because she had taken drugs from him.
What's more important is that Cassie could not prove in court that Diddy tricked her into using drugs. Instead, Cassie herself said that Diddy tried to stop her from taking the drugs, even sitting on that stand as an 8-month pregnant woman of color in a politically correct as fuck New York City with an unbeatable persona. She couldn't convince the entire jury.
And she said that she began her relationship with Kid Cudi at a point where she and Diddy were actually off. They were on a break, but she began a relationship with Kid Cudi because the two were just enjoying each other's company. She said that she did admit that she was still doing freak-offs during this off period with Diddy, but then she would kind of go and hang out with Kid Cudi. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, she and Diddy are still on a break, and she again said that it was scary if he had found out. She was asked if Diddy knew that Cassie and Diddy were on a break, and she said that I don't know. And then
now, when Cassie started messing around with another dude while simultaneously attending the freak-offs with her ex, according to her testimony, if she didn't comply, Diddy would not only hurt her, he would expose her via the sex tapes and completely ruin her reputation and her career, which is terrifying as fuck. So as a result, she went along. And on social media and even myself, we completely bought into it. But in the court of law, it was not enough to convince the jury, because what they saw in Cassie was an abused drug addict who was more than willing to join in the freak-offs while simultaneously cheating on her boyfriend. And it all came down to those goddamn text messages.
Fuck.
Now, Diddy is set to be sentenced in October, which by then he'll have well been in prison for over a year. And I'm guessing for each count, the judge might sentence him to about 5 years. Minus time served, he might have to serve a year and a half before getting parole. But while we won't see the diddler get life in prison, we just might see him go bankrupt. Because check this, once he gets out, he is facing 79 civil suits.
Holy moly.
And it's for damn sure no brand is gonna touch him. And nowadays, it is near impossible to make any money from music unless you go on tour. But I doubt anyone's gonna show up to a diddler concert. I sure as hell wouldn't. Which means the likely result is that Diddy's finances will be completely crushed by being tied up through litigation. And I guess breaking his bank is a decent consolation prize. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? How many years do you think he's gonna get come October? Will those 79 lawsuits bankrupt him? Let me know down below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace!